Hey guys, this is Nicole, and you are watching Life as a Law Student. I'm so excited to introduce to you some of my friends who are experienced LSAT coaches from all over the country, and one of them even from not in this country. They have really great things to say, and we're going to be talking about the digital LSAT today.
My name is Steve Schwartz. I've been coaching the LSAT for over 10 years now. I run the LSAT blog. I also host the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel and podcast, and I do this full time. I love it. I'm releasing new videos every day.
Right. I run I run Innovative LSAT. I've been teaching for about 3 years now, and mine is just pretty much a small little tutoring company. It's kind of one-on-one. Not a lot of videos or classes yet, but we'll see what happens in the future.
I'm Murielle Harkema, and I'm from Canada, so I'm the international participant here. I've been tutoring for, I guess it's been 6 years total, but started out super part-time before law school and during law school, and I'm still coaching part-time. But I do have a little tutoring company, Prima Prep LSAT Tutoring.
Guys, I will be sure to link all of their information below for you. I know that some of you have met Steve before, but I'm very excited to introduce some new guests as well with Brad and Murielle. So again, thank you guys so much for coming. First off the bat, I would love to just hear someone's definition of what the digital LSAT is.
Yeah, well, I can jump in. It's really just the LSAT in digital form. So the same old LSAT that you come to know and love/hate. And so, yeah, that's a law school admission test, but you're going to be writing it on a tablet rather than with pencil and paper.
I think I read that it had just rolled out this June. Is that accurate from what you guys have heard and know from your students?
Well, they started the digital writing sample in June, but the actual digital LSAT administration itself is starting in July 15th. Specifically, half of test takers will receive the digital format, half will receive the paper and pencil format. This is considered an educational best practice when transitioning to a new testing format. And as Murielle said, it will be on a tablet, Microsoft Surface Go specifically. And then starting in September, it will be digital for everyone in North America, with the exception of maybe a few accommodated test takers, but the vast majority of students will receive the digital format starting this fall and beyond.
I feel like I would be really stressed out if I was going to be a July test taker, didn't know which one I would be getting. What advice have you guys been giving your students who are taking the test in July as for how to prepare for both formats?
I think the biggest, comforting thing I've had to say is that, despite the different formats, the big relief here is that the content is exactly the same. Nothing in terms of the actual test, you still have two logical reasonings, you still have games, you still have a reading comp. Everything is exactly the same in that format. And so whether you're studying on paper or if you're studying digitally, you are still learning the same content you need to know for July. That being said, I do have some students that are really concerned if they get the digital portion. And for them, I just say, go to LSAC's website. They have digital familiarization tools there. You can take a few prep tests, I believe in the 70s, in the same format that is going to be provided on the actual test day. And I also have some people that prefer the digital, and they're just really excited. They're ready to take the paper test if they need it, but if they get the digital, all the better for them.
And for those of you who might not know, a test that's like in the 70s is one of the more recent tests. So it's not like you're practicing with super old like techniques and types of problems. Thankfully, I'm glad that LSAC is giving them like nice practice tests to familiarize themselves with the format. That's good.
Well, the July LSAT, it might be a little bit nerve-wracking to not know which format you're going to get, but at the same time, LSAC has extended a few olive branches to those taking in July to help kind of ease the way. First off, they're letting July test takers see their score before deciding whether to cancel, which is not normally the case. This is a one-time exception to that rule. And on top of that, LSAC is giving anyone who cancels the July LSAT a free retake on a future LSAT test administration. So July is kind of like a freebie, and anyone who cancels the July LSAT specifically, I think law schools aren't really going to care that much because so many folks will be canceling July, given the incentive to do so, to be getting a free retake. So I honestly don't think it's that much of a thing to worry about. And as Brad said, the format is not changing at all. Only the style, the content's not changing, only the style in which it's delivered is changing. And you can get a tablet, you could borrow a friend's iPad or use a Samsung or whatever you like. Doesn't really matter. You can still use that digital LSAT familiarization tool just the same.
Have you guys been encouraging your students to specifically study and practice on some kind of tablet if they have the ability to? Or do you feel like studying with just the traditional pencil and paper and doing practice tests that way is still going to be enough to not throw them off for the digital one?
So I've definitely been encouraging all of my students to use LSAC's resources for familiarization. So familiar.lsac.org, that's where you can get those 3 tests from the 70s. So yeah, I've definitely been encouraging my students to go there. I think the biggest difference is going to be for those students who really like to take a lot of notes on their comp section. That becomes a bit, I don't know, I mean, it's just a different process, right? And so that sort of muscle memory and the way that you're interacting with the paper versus a screen is going to change a bit. So for those students, I would say, yeah, go ahead and practice on a tablet if you have access. But otherwise, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. And I actually do think that there are a lot of advantages to the digital LSAT. There's like a countdown timer. I mean, that's huge. And the ability to flag, and yeah, there are lots of really great features.
Will you guys be planning on taking the digital LSAT yourself to just have that experience to share with students?
Well, I considered that, but after seeing what LSAC put out, I don't really feel that it's necessary anymore. I actually have a Surface Go now, so yeah, I can take it essentially under test conditions, just using their set there. Obviously, I've seen those exams before, but yeah, I do feel like I can kind of give my advice without having taken it again myself.
You can honestly replicate a lot of it just using, if you have access to the PDFs, you can replicate it just having the PDFs on the screen and having your scratch paper to the side. But for students who want to really practice like it's game day, yeah, get a tablet. And I don't love telling people to go out and spend money on electronics they don't really need, but you don't need to buy a Microsoft Surface Go specifically. Any old tablet will do. You can get an Amazon Fire tablet for like $150 and then return it after the LSAT if you decide that is not for you. And then just play around with the 3 exams currently on LSAC's familiarization tool site. They'll be releasing more in the future. And of course, we've all seen the exams in the 70s before, but for our students, we can encourage them, hey, don't do exams 71, 73, and 74, and whatever they might release in the future. Save those for your tablet practice. And then for the rest, just use PDFs and the scratch paper. That'll be good enough, I think. I don't want to overtly harp on the problems with this format or the downsides, but as Murielle said, there are some benefits. I also love the bubbling aspect. You can bubble it with one click or one touch of the screen. That probably saves you a minute or 2 per section. That's huge, I think.
I remember that was like super annoying to have an hour where it wasn't even like test taking. It's just like, let's talk about bubbles and waste all of your sharp pencilness on filling in your name.
No, some of this is actually getting hyper efficient where your tablet, when you start off, it's going to pop up with your photo that you uploaded to their website previously. So it's a little bit Big Brother-ish and kind of weird, but at the same time, if it saves you time bubbling, maybe it's worth it.
I mean, I only spoke to you because on my test day, I had a big horror story. Reading comp, by far my least favorite section. Got about halfway through and realized I'd actually misbubbled.
Oh no.
Wow.
So just okay, step back, breathe, go back, find the problem, fix it up, and then finish the section. I did fine, but like it was just like that could happen to anyone.
Something I did with Steve before on our videos was I asked him what the most common question that he got as an LSAT coach was and what his answer would be. And so while I have you guys here, Brad and Murielle, I'd love to pose that question to you as well, just because it's a cool opportunity to have 3 LSAT coaches on a video. And I want my viewers to be able to kind of hear those common answers from people who really know what they're talking about.
So for me, I think the biggest question I always get from potential students or new students or anything is just, how do I get started? I mean, I think when you first dive into it, there's so much information going on, especially now with this digital thing, digital, non-digital, prep tests, what are the prep tests in the 70s, what are logic, all that kind of stuff. And so I think it's very, very overwhelming, just how do I get started? And so for me, it's just walking through the student, okay, here's what you gotta get some practice tests. You wanna make sure you have the right study tools, X, Y, and Z, and just saying, okay, now do this first, and then we have a defined kind of study plan, and now we're ready to go. It's not so scary anymore now that we know what we're doing.
A big one is, how much do I need to study, right? So how many hours per day, how many hours per week, how many weeks, how many months? And I mean, there are estimates that we can give, but one of the things that I always end up saying is it depends, right? I mean, lifestyle is going to factor into this. There are students who are treating LSAT studying like their full-time job, and then there are other students who absolutely cannot do that, right? And so they're working full-time or they're working multiple jobs, and LSAT is going to have to sit on the back burner from time to time, and so that is a big challenge for sure, to figure out what works for every student. But I think that's one of the benefits of one-on-one tutoring, is that you can work that out with another human being who understands the pressures outside of this exam. Yeah, I mean, I was working full-time when I was studying myself, and so I get it. I get that life happens.
What do you guys say when people ask you, like, should I get an LSAT coach? Like, is that something that I really need? Because you guys all know I didn't actually end up having an LSAT coach, and I think that there's a lot of benefits to one, and it wasn't something I really understood, and honestly wasn't something that was like financially feasible for me. So I don't know, what would you say if you're talking to a student like me who is like, do I really need this? Can I afford this? What are kind of your typical answers to those questions?
I honestly say that it's not for everybody. You've got to put in the work first on your end. I recommend you identify your weak areas and focus on those. And once you've done that, then you can bring your hardest problems to a coach and say, I want to work on these specific question types, these exact practice problems. I've done the work on my end first. I've learned the basics. I've reviewed whatever free material you've already put out. And then I'm coming to you to go to the next level beyond that. But you've got to do the work on your end first. If someone's coming to me, they want me to teach them the entire curriculum, that's not really good use of either of our time, especially when so much else is out there available already for free or for a low cost. So if you've done the work first on your end, then you can come to a coach. But I'd say otherwise, you may not be ready yet.
Why not just try on your own? Because if it works on your own, that's more the better. Because then you're just doing your own pace. You're probably saving some money. So just try it out. If you're still struggling, then yes, we will absolutely get this figured out.
I'll usually email back with just some questions to try to narrow it down a little bit for them. And a lot of people will contact me before they've even tried a practice test. So yeah, I mean, the first thing is always, okay, here's the free practice test that's available online. I mean, now I can send them to the digital resources as well. Give one of these a try, go through it, take your time. I don't tend to recommend like a full-timed prep test right away. I don't really see the point of that, except to kind of freak you out and make you feel dumb. But yeah, something like that. And then asking them what study strategies worked for you in other situations, right? Like, were you able to just sort of sit and listen to a lecture and absorb material that way? Then here, go to this podcast, right? I send people to Steve's stuff regularly. So yeah, I mean, there's so much out there. They're really great resources. And yeah, what I want to do is those conversations that you can't have with a book.
I do want to give you the opportunity, if there's anything else that's like advice or common questions or anything about the digital LSAT that you'd like to share with everyone before we sign off, this would be the time to do that.
I've completely redesigned my LSAT courses and coaching around the digital LSAT because it will require the adjustment of a lot of strategies. So I've got the courses available. I'll share the link with you, Nicole, so you can put it in the description. But on the YouTube channel and podcast, LSAT Unplugged, I'm putting out tons of free resources about how to adjust your study strategies for the digital LSAT for games, reasoning, and reading comp, between how to use the scratch paper efficiently, as well as how to use LSAC's tools like highlighting and underlining, all those various annotation tools they have that you can look at on familiar.lsac.org, how best to use them and also when not to use them. So check those out if you're looking for more.
Breathe, relax, try to enjoy the process. It is a process for sure. And so I think the more you can come in with a positive attitude and kind of a optimistic view on this whole thing, it's going to make just your life easier. It's probably going to may even bump your score up a few points if you're more inclined to study and you enjoy it a little bit more. And for current students, just keep working hard because this is the first step of many steps to becoming a lawyer. So, but you guys all got this.
I mean, the one thing that I'm changing is bringing the tablet to sessions. That's a big change. That as I'm doing that, I'm realizing what strategies need a little bit of a reboot. For the most part, I'll be reading comp. For logic games, I'm actually finding that it's helping students because a lot of them don't want to write on the exams anyways, kind of want to save them for resale. So having the scratch paper is sort of more what they're used to.
Cool. Well, thank you guys again so much for doing this. I know it's really going to be helpful to the people who see this video. And again, I will be sure to link all their info below. My big thanks to Brad, Steve, and Murielle. Please make sure to check them out, follow them on Instagram and YouTube and all those things. But I will see you guys next week. And until then, God bless.